How's it going, folks? Jack here with another reaction here to Martincitopants' Kerbal space program. Oh,
idiots! I've had enough. God, why would you just pay attention?
I did again. Kerbal Scuffed program part 3. The Kerbonauts, or whatever is left of them, have been to the equivalent of Mars. They have landed on a gas giant, and there was the amazing expansion of 5G in space. Now they're about to undertake the greatest challenge yet, meeting Kevin and his wrath. Now, I am so excited. Let's not tarry here, let's jump into the video.
Sponsored by World of Warships.
Nice, great sponsorship. Oh. That's odd. Wait,
Hello
what
again.
is some that's some Inception shit.
But why am I here? On Elu. That's kind of far away, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is. Worse, it looks like we're stranded here for the foreseeable future. Great. But how did this all happen? What led to our stranding on Elu? And
Good
where
question.
is Kevin? All good questions.
Oh.
Well, it all began with... Hello again, gents. Welcome back. Today, we're yet again back in KSP. In this episode, we'll be making great strides in not only sending Kerbals far away, but keeping Kerbals far away.
Oh no, did he defeat Kevin?
What? No!
I can't believe this. Where did he
In the
go?
last episode, the bounds of science and discovery were pushed very far.
Yeah.
New technologies were discovered, large missions were sent to the far reaches of the solar system, and society has advanced significantly. This, however, came at a cost. Many Kerbals
So
were
many
unfortunately
Kerbals
turned
lost.
into a grey puff of dust in the name of progress. Jeb, Bill, Bob, Val, and in spirit, Urk and Obson, because I'm absolutely
For
not
Obson.
getting them back. Sorry, Urk. They've all given the greatest possible sacrifice for the sake of the program. But we still have a long way to go.
Also, some did mention that there is the possibility of making them able to eat, drink, and sleep. With the aid of mods, of course. So, they're dead.
Remember, our goal is not to explore our planetary neighbors, but to explore our stellar neighbors, specifically Proxima Centauri b. In this episode, we'll be expanding our presence by building planetary bases all over the place.
Wow,
Not the
that's
dingy little ones
very
with
low
boxes.
gravity.
This time around, we're going for big lads. They won't just be bases, they'll be complexes, with their own power generation,
Whoa!
crew quarters, mining operations, and even launch sites. Our first target is Minimus. So, let us begin.
What was that? That looked like something straight out of Command and Conquer.
Gentlemen, this video is sponsored by World of Warships. Have you spent your whole life a stinky land-dwelling pleb? Are you itching for intense violence? Well, oh boy, guess what? I think it's time for you to hop on the computer, download World of Boat for free, and send some high explosives at the Japanese
World of
destroyers,
Boats.
battleships, cruisers, and aircraft carriers. A massive 400 warships and 44 million players to send
Why is it always the
to
Japanese?
the bottom of the ocean. But wait, there's more. The game is now partnering with Legendary Entertainment on a collaboration to bring Godzilla vs. Kong to World of Warships.
okay.
What does that mean for you? Moke. Pick a side, shit
Big
lizard or
moke.
giant gorilla, and unlock special rare camos, ship skins, and even Moke on the boat. Yeah! That's right, baby. Be raw. Download using the first link in the description and use either Godzilla or Titan Kong for your promo code. Forget about Godzilla though, because Godzilla is a shit lizard. Enter code Titan Kong for 300 doubloons. 1 million credits, 5 days premium, the USS Charleston, 10 monkey-themed camos, or Godzilla camos if you're a shit lizard fan, USS Smith, or Taichibana if you're a shit lizard fan, and 3 Godzilla vs. Kong ship crates. Gentlemen, you must act fast. This is an
Nice.
extremely limited event, so get your giant boat gorilla before it's too late. Offer ends 31st of May. Back to the video.
The movie was awesome.
So, Minimus. We're going to need a few modules for our base to be fully operational. Mining, refining, habitation, and a launch pad. But let's back up for a minute. Why build a base on Minimus?
And why haven't we built bases yet on the moon? Like, think about that. Since, I think in 1959, there was this thing called Project Horizon, not to be compared to Project Horizon in Europe, about like how the development of technologies and such has nothing to do with that at all. That was an EU related stuff. But Project Horizon was this thing that was under the supervision of both the military, the Navy, as well as the Air Force, which at the time, of course, had the full control of the US space program. And the aim was to determine whether or not it was feasible to establish a scientific, truly a military base on the moon. And did they? No, they never did. And it was quite the undertaking. I think, well, we're talking about billions of dollars that were invested into that. But it never came to. Which is kind of weird. Like, you know, we can go to the moon in like 3 days, but we still haven't made like strive to have like a pit stop there. But it's kind of strange to think about how we've been visualizing how to terraform other planets all these years through science fiction, but we've never even gone to our own satellite yet. Yeah, that's all.
Hello class, it's me, Frog Guy. In this lesson, we're going to learn about drag, aerodynamic drag.
Oh.
Drag is a force that acts.
We
in
talked
the
about
opposite
this last
direction
time.
that you're moving. If I
See.
move to the right, then I'll experience a force to the left. It slows stuff down. Not what we want for high-speed rocket flight. Or is it?
No.
Yeah, most of the time. But parachutes are very useful because they can create huge amounts of drag when you want them to, slowing a speedy craft down to not so speedy speeds. But most of the time, drag is bad. So how do we get rid of it? Well, if we can find a way to lower these guys on the right, it will result in this guy on the left also being lowered.
Which one is not a constant?
And let's say, hypothetically, I want to have no drag whatsoever. Since all the terms on the right are multiplied together, and we know that anything times 0 is 0,
Sure.
if any one of these numbers here is 0, then the whole thing is also 0. These guys on the right here can't really be 0.
I like how he nearly, with his rod, stopped at the answer.
Area would mean our craft is a one-dimensional line. The drag coefficient can never really be 0.
No.
And if you made velocity 0, well...
Yeah, you're not moving.
Last we could change would be
The
fluid
density.
density. Now this can actually be 0. Now I wonder, where is fluid density 0?
Well, on this
Kevin.
planet.
I mean, someone. Please tell me.
Kevin is gone.
Really? No one?
Minimus.
Guys, come on, it's Minimus, you fucking idiots! I've had enough. God, why would you just pay attention? Yeah, Minimus.
Shit.
There's no atmosphere, meaning drag is 0.
Yeah.
Good spot for a base, don't you think? Yes. So we want to build a base. What do we launch first? Simple. 3 things at the same time, because otherwise we'd be here for far too long. The main habitation module, called Djibouti. The beam sections on the side, called Djibouti beam section. And
Okay, hold on. Okay, that's good. We're going shout out to Africa now. That's okay. I don't know much about Djibouti. I would have like given you a fun fact, but well, I guess it's as much as a fun fact as it gets. That it's on Africa's Horn, but also the only thing that I truly know about it is that it's the country's name is the same as that of the capital. So it's very easy to remember that one. Djibouti. And also, yeah, the name is funny.
And the crane. Except the crane didn't work, so we went for this thing. The amazing, the incredible, Big Nuts. The Big Nuts will attach the beam section to the habitation module. So, let's launch.
3, 2, 1, go!
Now we actually know the songs. I never actually noticed if he always linked them. But this one is cool.
And they're all here.
I like how
After
everything's
several
just
minutes of
rolling
futzing
into
around with
place.
Big Nuts and a couple of Kraken encounters, the beam sections were fully assembled. So, what next? Well, we're close to completely out of funds which are needed for expanding the base.
Oh
So
no.
what do? A. Collect some easy money by completing contracts.
Do
B.
not kill some
Sell off some
Kerbal.
science and reputation for a quick fund boost.
Okay.
Or C. liquidate all capital assets and divert the funds into a multi-billion-dollar joint venture with Ahmed Al president of Saudi Aramco Petrochemicals, to build the largest.
Okay, this is where will be needed the funds. Yeah, if only they were so generous.
Most powerful and most profitable chemical refinery ever built. I think the answer is pretty clear.
Saudi Arabia is currently wasting the money on building some of the most horrendous things that I've ever seen. Like, last I reacted to the video from the internet historian on architecture, I got reminded of this building called The Line that they're trying to make. It's like this 500-meter tall building that is basically a mirror in the middle of the desert. Why? What animals are you trying to kill? Who's your target? Tell me. What's the point? Like, why can't you use that money to fund space travel?
After an hour of turning ore into monopropellant, or cash into more cash, we have arrived at 5 million funds. More than enough to make the rest of the modules for the base. However, we have a problem. It turns out where we put the base is quite important. There are two main resources we need for it to function. Ore, which is used to make fuel,
Sure.
and metal ore, which is used to make metal, which is used to make rocket parts, which is used to make rockets. Current spot has
I
ore,
see.
but no metal ore. So I did some prospecting, found a good spot, built a sky crane, flew it to Minimus, picked up the booty, and flew it about 20 kilometers east. Our new spot is rich in both ore
Wow.
and metal, but it's not flat and tends to cause problems. To complete the base, we need a drill rover, a refining rover, lots of these attacher things that are unnecessary if you aren't stupid, and finally, the launch pad.
The developers of this game really thought about everything, huh? It's like Astroneer, but you need patience.
And there we go. In celebration, we build a fuel tank and a dish. And
Of course.
a station. Why? Well, as my new Saudi friends would tell you, because we can.
Right.
This Minimus base will be our new point of rocket launching, and our first mission from it will be Gilly. If you think Minimus's 0.05 G is far too much gravity, try Gilly with its 0.005 G.
What? Okay. I guess that the proportions are really small in Kerbal space. That'll mean that I weigh around, yeah, that's 90 kilos, so that's nearly 200 pounds. So that'll make me 4.5 kilograms. Sheesh. Where can I get a ticket?
That's 10 times lower. Not only is the gravity incredibly low on Gilly,
On Minimus.
but it's quite far away.
Here I
so
weigh
being able to
nothing.
build things there is a big, fat dub. This time, I'm going to send a single rover that can do all of the functions of the Minimus base, but badly. This rover will be the start point for yet another base. Its name?
One.
Instead of launching from Kerbal with a huge, annoying launch vehicle, we can simply build it on Minimus and ship it to Gilly from there. Not
Oh.
only will this be easier, but it also won't cost any funds at all.
Ah.
Not that that matters. After a painful construction process, it's on the pad, fueled up, and ready to launch. So, let's launch.
That's smart. But how does the base stick to the ground? Like, even if you can drill down the soil.
There we go, boys. One has landed. As a test, I quickly whip up a small science rover, build it up, and drive it around. However, around this time, this started happening.
Started phasing.
Repeatedly. I
Yikes.
switched to the Minimus base, and then this happened.
Okay,
Oh shit.
something's wrong with the low G
good.
collision detection.
Luckily, I had turned quick saving and reverting back on because of this exact bullshit being a possibility. So the bases weren't gone, but they were kind of useless in this state. Dang. So for the next base, I decided I would... For this base, I've made the executive decision to launch it from Kerbal. I had a plan for this particular vessel, and it was big.
What was that set off?
Luckily, our boys at Saudi Aramco had been pumping and dumping non-stop for the past several months, netting us a very, very large amount of funds to work with. 26 million to be exact. Excellent. This would be necessary, as this next base would be quite large. So large, in fact, that 26 million wouldn't actually be enough money. Now, we could have continued to convert Kerbin's crust into monopropellant until we reached the planet's core, but that would be boring, and I know we can do better. What we needed to do was find a different resource to sell. You see, our great, strong partnership took boring old ore and converted it into boring old monopropellant. This would be the most efficient conversion without mods, but we have mods, so let's use them.
Okay.
The different resources of KSB Interstellar.
Liquid heavy water. I see somebody's going nuclear.
Gas. But one stands above the rest. Antimatter. 1 kilogram of this stuff is worth a ridiculous 108 million funds.
I'm sorry. We escalated really quickly there. How do you harvest a kilogram of antimatter? The thing that we can barely detect here, even though we're using those bloody what are they called again? Like the one that we have, I was part of the project that they have in Japan. The Kamioka Observatory, that's what it's called. They have this neutrino detector built in there where they can find the antimatter that usually don't interact with matter. Of course, it's so bloody rare that it happens, but I suppose that he may jump and explain what it's about. But if he doesn't, I'll chime in. But yeah, it's quite a difficult process to just detect that they are around.
However, we can do even better. This is the diamagnetic antimatter container, which doesn't just store antiprotons, but full antihydrogen, which you can store with much higher density. In fact, right here, you're looking at 1,000 kilos, or 1 ton, of antihydrogen, which is worth 108 billion funds. Now then...
What? Okay. Now I guess that I understand how we caught up to Kevin.
That is a lot of dollar. So, let's partake in the ultimate drug run and go fill it up. But first, what is antimatter?
Somebody wants to harness the power of the sun.
Hello again, class. Welcome back. Particle physics.
Next
Sounds
up,
complicated,
Dyson
but it's really
sphere.
not that bad. Firstly, we begin with water. If you were to zoom in really close to water, you wouldn't see anything. But if you could see something, you'd see water molecules. Lots of water molecules. Let's pick one of these molecules and look at it even closer. At this scale, you can see that water is made of 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom.
Yeah.
H2O. Let's ignore
Then
the
you go
oxygen
even
for the time
further,
being and zoom into one of
subatomic.
the hydrogen atoms. At this scale, we see that the hydrogen atom itself is made of 1 proton and 1 electron. Protons have mass and a positive charge, and electrons have almost no mass and a negative charge.
Yep.
Protons and electrons, and also neutrons, which have no charge, make up matter. If we have a close look at oxygen, we see that it
8.
itself is made of 8 protons, 8 neutrons, and 8 electrons.
Okay, so from what I see, we're stopping at this scale. But I think that to understand the what is also important to include the why and when. So I was trying to be rather slick with my transition here since I use OBS to record. And, well, it didn't turn out well. It wasn't so bad that I had to do a reboot. And as you can see around you, or around me, some time passed for that. Windows update. The anti-pause guard really hate me. And also, I do apologize. I also realized that I have been sounding as if I was furiously shade posting because of the high gain. So Sorry. Back on target. When it comes to the necessity of having particle physics or quantum mechanics involved, it has of course something to do with the nature of the things that we're looking at, subatomic sizes, because there things are extremely small and also extremely fast. This of course introduces us to the early 20th century with the best hair model in history, Albert Einstein, joining the chat. Here he starts speculating on what happens when things are moving close to the speed of light, the constant c that you may have seen in his famous equation E equals mc squared. Well, he derived something about that in his theory of relativity and gave that equation in its full form. If you've never seen that, it's the one that features the impulse, well, momentum, yes. The two are interchangeable in Danish, so it sometimes gets confusing. But alongside him was a guy called Paul Dirac, who sought to explain the motions of the electron, what happens when they change energy levels. And he's made this very beautiful equation. Well, personally, I think it's beautifully looking. And this one actually explained quite a lot about it. So perfectly, in fact, that it's held to this day. And what was the caveat about it was that there were two solutions to how the electron behaved. One that was, of course, the thing that they had in practice seen, and the other was the opposite of what they had seen, which of course enters antimatter. And at the time, they had already developed a very good understanding of the fundamental building blocks of what makes matter, that being the quarks that comes in 12 that you have seen already depicted here before, and some 4, should we say 5? No, 4, because they are the elementary forces or fundamental forces of the universe. We don't include the Higgs boson, although it's a thing that makes everything permeable. Either ways, the interaction between all these things is what constitutes matter. For example, as shown here with the positively charged proton, you have 2 up quarks and 1 down. And if you were to find its antimatter counterpart, then that would be the antiproton, which is negatively charged. Likewise, how it is that the electron that is negatively charged has its antithesis being the positively charged proton. And that is basically how antimatter comes into play, and is of course the fact that the two are attracted to one another, and
Positive. E being energy, M being mass, and C being the speed
Natalie
of light.
Portman's favorite
C
movie.
squared happens to be this number, 9 with 16 zeros on the end. So if you had 1 kilogram of antimatter and mixed it with 1 kilogram of regular matter, you'd have this number of joules.
Oh sheesh.
A lot of joules. Or 21 megatons of TNT in 1 kilo. Pretty good stuff. Which means our
He's trying to harness the power of the sun.
lovely 1 ton of antimatter is the equivalent of 21 gigatons of TNT. Very big. But
Yeah.
still 5,000 times less than the diode.
Okay, if that's the perspective that you're going
big
with,
boy.
fair enough.
Back to the challenge at hand. Collecting antimatter. Challenge number 1. You can produce antimatter in Kerbal, but it's difficult and slow. Not ideal. The other way to get antimatter is through using a collector. In space, there's actually a fairly large amount of antimatter just floating around. If you're
Yeah.
smart, you can use strong magnetic fields to capture this antimatter and store it. This is great,
Yeah.
but it only works in space, and works best near strong magnetic fields where there are lots of particles whizzing around. Kerbal has a magnetic field, but it's quite weak. So do all planets in KSP. But they all suck compared to our big green friend, Joule. At
Joule.
exactly 9,000 kilometers in altitude, on a perfectly circular, 0-degree orbit, you can get the highest possible antimatter flux. You can also stack up collectors and start collecting in the tens of grams per hour.
Wow.
Big stuff.
Yeah.
However, there is another problem with this method.
That-
The collectors can only collect antiprotons, not positrons, which can only be created in a cyclotron. So, we need lots of collectors, a cyclotron, a power source, generator, radiators, and of course, engine for getting to Joule.
That's true. It's so detailed, this game. Obviously, there are some scientific things that take a lot of liberties, because I've only seen a couple of cyclotrons once in my life. And one of them was the ELINA project, which is where they detect the antiproton detector at CERN. And it's not a small machine. You can't just feed that into a rocket. It's massive. There are a lot of insulators everywhere, danger signs and stuff like that. But yeah, as I said before, they can only be manufactured or found in a cyclotron.
Behold, the Warren Buffett. Let's strap it to the most powerful rocket ever built and send it up.
I think that he says the most powerful rocket of all times. The Japanese commercial? Really? It's been a while since I've heard that. Right.
Once at Joule, we place ourselves at 9,000 kilometers, start producing positrons, and begin the lengthy collection process.
But he wants to collect an entire ton. That's a lot, dude.
And after a mere 6 years of spinning around the big green boy, the container was filled with a ridiculous 1 ton of antimatter.
I mean, it's fast,
Time to bring it back to Kerbal.
relatively speaking. Friction.
After another 2 years in space, the massive bounty of antimatter is finally back.
Oh,
So we
wow.
recover the vessel and are rewarded with 96 billion funds.
No longer do we have money problems. Sheesh.
Now that we will never have money problems again, we can begin construction of our largest project yet,
Okay,
the Joule spacecraft. Since it's going to be so large, launching it in one go would be infeasible. So instead, the program has decided to launch it in several smaller chunks and perform what is known in the business as orbital assembly. This would require many launches, but once assembled, we would have a real big boy in space.
that's a
Not just
space
any big
station,
boy
my
either.
dude.
This would be a proper spaceship. Lots of fuel in these spherical tanks, this big fusion engine for high efficiency, a nuclear reactor for power, a ring centrifuge particle accelerator thing that looks cool, and a lander for collecting surface science. But before we launch,
Wild.
let's rewind the tape a little bit. This big fusion engine for high efficiency. What do I mean by this?
I am not talking about fusion, okay? I'm not an expert, so we're gonna gloss over that.
What makes a rocket engine efficient?
Efficient?
First of all, let's look at a small example. These two rockets are both exactly 7 tons and have the same amount of fuel. The only difference between them is the engines they use. This one uses a conventional liquid fuel engine, and this one uses a nuclear engine. If we burn all the fuel in both rockets, which one will be going fastest at the end?
The nuclear. Well, the thing is, normally, if you are looking at a heat engine, the formula is quite simple for efficiency. You always just take the amount of work done contra the heat input. But here we are dealing with rocket engines, and I think it's like the specific impulse that is employed here instead. Obviously, it's the rocket one.
The
Nuclear.
Obviously. Why else would we put a nuclear reactor in space?
Yeah.
You dumb. So why is this? Conservation of momentum. You may remember back in episode 1 when I asked Kevin about Newton's third law. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction.
Yeah.
The rocket engine expels hot gas backwards very fast, which imparts an equal and opposite force on the rocket, causing it to accelerate. If you throw the hot gas back even faster, then you get more force for the same amount of fuel. This is exactly what the nuclear engine is doing. It uses a nuclear reaction in its core to heat up a gas to incredible temperatures that are much higher than what normal chemical rockets can achieve. This
Wow.
hot gas expands more than regular hot gas, which gives it higher exhaust velocity, and thus higher efficiency. So what about our futuristic fusion rocket? How does that work?
We don't know.
I don't know. But what I do know is that it uses a nuclear fusion reaction to release lots of energy and then shoots hydrogen through it to get its thrust. Efficiency is measured in specific impulse, which is measured in seconds.
Yeah.
Higher seconds is better. But why seconds? 400 seconds would mean that a rocket engine with 100 kilograms of fuel would produce 100 kilograms of thrust for 400 seconds before it ran out of fuel. The
Indeed.
best chemical rockets can do about 400 seconds of specific impulse. The nuclear rocket engine in stock KSP does 800 seconds, and the ion engine can do 4,000 seconds. This is still baby shit though. The fusion
Oh.
engine that we've been talking about can do 15,500 seconds in high thrust mode and 27,000 seconds in the most efficient mode. But we can do even better. The best engines can do 100, even 200,000, with the very best able to do a ridiculous 2 million seconds of specific impulse. These engines are so powerful that they can realistically accelerate the craft to a significant
Speed of
fraction
light!
of the speed of light.
I was looking at this, like, hearing the Yu-Gi-Oh! Life point sign going up in my head. Okay, this is wild.
Very nice. Anyway, back to the Joule mission. We've got a few modules to launch. Propulsion, command, centrifuge, reactor, habitation, labs, new labs because the old ones are bad, and the lander. So, let's go.
Oh, the boss fight from Fury. I learned that only because I played Beat Saber and a friend of mine had that in there. And again, I must remind you that Kevin did this in 4 seconds.
Once the spaceship was fully assembled, I went to give it a name. But what to name it? Something that is definitely the Big Funny. I consulted the world map, zoomed into
no.
West Africa, into Burkina Faso.
Not the front door, this guy. Ouagadougou. Which, to be honest, is fair. I'll give him that because in the capital you will see one of the greatest monuments that any country has ever had. It straight up looks like something that you will find in a sci-fi novel. So yeah, for space travel, fair.
And to its capital, Ouagadougou. Immense. Once around Joule,
Can you just imagine for a second being in like a physics class while you're learning, you're just there headbutting all the time? This would be like the best feeling ever. Like you are actually enjoying yourself.
the craft into a parking orbit, detached the lander, and began the hunt for lots of science.
So cinematic. Of course, for good measure, another Kerbal had to die. The Ouagadougou lander. I want NASA to say that one day.
Lots of data was collected, and our fuel was almost depleted. We headed back to Ouagadougou, docked, and transferred the science into the lab. After
Oh,
several
wow.
more months of zooming around the green boy, the research had been completed. In total, we had collected 41,000 science from our mission, but the labs
Wow.
had multiplied this by 5, leaving us with an absolutely massive 207,000 science.
He can now
In
make
celebration,
anything.
I get a Kerbal out of the habitation module, who is instantly vaporized by the high-energy neutrons from the fusion engine. RIP. I hurried to the R&D building and unlocked every technology available, including the warp drives.
Here we go.
Our next base will be on the surface of the furthest planet in the Kerbal system. Good old Elu. I've learned from our previous surface-based mistakes and placed everything necessary for the base to function on one vessel. Its name... This long boy has the premier in power generation, a literal black hole, and many other important features like a launch pad, drills, and an ISRU module.
Science left the building a long time ago. Okay. He packed its bag. It left. With all the children behind. Never turned back. What? He's powering his ship with a singularity. I have no words.
The interesting part of this base is how we're bringing it to Elu. You'd expect for a rocket of this size it would need a massive launch vehicle. But no. With our shiny new technologies, we can condense this vehicle into this power. It uses 4 antimatter powered jet engines, a massive fusion engine, and the warp drive. So let's launch.
Yikes, dude.
Up in space, we don't bother getting into orbit. Instead, we begin charging the warp drive, and...
Beautiful. Simply beautiful.
"20 minutes later, we've traveled 76 million kilometers, and we're here. We take it down to a low orbit, and touchdown. In less than a week, we've placed a base on the furthest planet in the solar system. Very nice.
Time to
In
plan for
celebration, we built a
interstellar
space
travel.
station and launch it from our base. Incredible. We've pretty much conquered the entire solar system, so naturally, our next destination is...
Yeah.
For our first Interstellar Voyage, we'll send a lander to plant a flag on the planet's surface. This will need an interstellar transfer stage, and a lander with enough delta V to land and return to orbit. For this job, we've recycled the Ouagadougou lander, remembered to include a ladder, and built the very first interstellar transfer stage. So, we put it on a launcher, name it Shitfart 14, and launch. Once in space, we charge up the warp drive, and...
Damn. Did that just say 4,000 feet?
Here we are, boys. Proxima Centauri. And our small exoplanet, Proxima Centauri b. We detach the lander
Fantastic.
and fly it down to the surface.
I was about to say Kevin was there already, but I didn't realize that it was going to go this bad. Oh no. Oh no. Well, at least they still live. Imagine building a warp drive. No, Kevin. No, Kevin. Okay, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I made a mistake. Last time I said that I wouldn't see him as an antagonist, but like imagine building something like that, a spacecraft as he did in 4 seconds before, and well, that wasn't the one that was built in 4 seconds, but you get my point. He built something extremely fast as he was thrown out of the classroom, which, by the way, is in goddamn space. And still using a carbine as your weapon. Anyways, folks, another banger of a video for martincitopants and the Kerbal Scuffed program. Wow, I am at a loss of words. It's simply beautiful and very educational. That's so good. But this is going to be it for today. As always, if you like this video, please give it a like. Also, go and subscribe to martincitopants. That's a given. And that said, though, wish you all to have a wonderful day. Stay chill and hopefully you learn something from this. And see you guys in the next one. Bye.